All right, welcome everybody to the next video where we're going to add our first battle map, or we're going to have a few here, and talk about the different layers that are on Roll20. So this is getting us started, building out some of the content for our campaign, one shot, whatever you're doing. All right, so with the layers, we have several different layers here. We have the tokens layer. This is where all the tokens are going to live that are visible to the players. Then we have the GM layer or DM layer, which are where you can put tokens that are not visible to the players. So you can still see them as the DM, but they can't see them. A great way for like setting up an ambush or, whatever. Then you have the map layer. This is where it's good. Anything on this layer will be visible, but not interactive with the players. So this is a great place to put the battle map, right? So your map layer is where your battle maps go. Pretty obvious. There is the foreground layer here. I don't play with this one. I don't know this one, so we're not going to talk about it because I'm not educated enough to talk about it. But from what I'm understanding, it's kind of a cool way to add roofs, and then you can slowly start to hide this layer to show the layer below it or something, which would be the map layer. And then you have the lighting layer, which is beneath kind of the map layer, and it's a way to add a lot of immersion and cool features that we will have a whole separate video on. But so those are the different layers. So as you imagine, if we're trying to build our first battle map, we're going to have to go into the map layer. If you don't go into the map layer and you accidentally put it in the tokens layer, when you pull that artwork over, it's actually going to be a token that has like you can assign HP, assign a character sheet, which we're not trying to do. It's just a battle map. But I'm going to do it that way just to show you if you do accidentally do that, how do you fix it? And I should mention before you get started, you should have all of your artwork ready to go. Oops. If you have any DM docs, any artwork for your NPCs, tokens, if you have custom tokens, if it's in the compendium in Roll20 and you pull it over, you don't need a token to create one. It'll have one already. However, if you want to create your own tokens and have it a little bit more flavor to it, you can do that as well. And maybe I'll do a video on how to create tokens with Photoshop down the road. But for this, we're going to take our, let's do it the Bloated Pig Tavern. All right. So we're going to take that and just simply drag it over. Now, I purposefully put it on the tokens layer instead of the maps layer, but you should be putting it on the maps layer. Now you can see here, it has the bubbles, which were, we had, this was HP, this was AC. And if we wanted to use the passive perception, we could do that here. That's how I use my bubbles, but how you use your bubbles, it's not a token, it's not a character, right? So we want to move this to the map layer. If you accidentally put it in the tokens layer, just right click on it, say change layer, and go to map or whatever layer you want it to be in. Alternatively, you can use a keyboard shortcut. So O on the keyboard is your objects layer or tokens layer. K is your DM layer. So these are the tokens that would not be visible to the players, but are visible to you. M is the map layer. Comma is the lighting layer, and period is the foreground layer. So those are the keyboard shortcuts. And remember that you want to have this use advanced keyboard shortcuts just to enable everything. But to move something from one layer to another. So I'm on the tokens layer. I've selected the token. I want to move that to the map layer. Instead of doing, if you're not a mouse person, you're more a keyboard person, it's Control Shift and then the letter for that keyboard shortcut for that layer. So we want to go to the map layer. I hit M. Now it's on the map layer. It didn't move me. I'm still on the tokens layer, but it moved the object down to the map layer. Really good tool for when you have things on the GM layer that you want to move up to the objects layer. It's Control Shift O, and that will move that object up to the objects layer. Or if you want to take something from the objects layer, move it down to the DM layer, Control Shift K, right? But either way, enough about keyboard shortcuts. Now we go to the map layer ourselves, and now we can manipulate where this goes. It's always a good idea to put it up in the upper left corner, and there is a little extra there. So we're going to put this right there. Actually, it doesn't matter because we're going to move it anyway. But you can see immediately the map's artwork size is much smaller than the canvas size. We will address that after we look at these grid lines. So you can see the blue grid lines here that's on the artwork itself are much smaller than the grid lines that are on Roll20. And if you're having a hard time seeing these grid lines on Roll20, you can come up to the top here, click on the gear, scroll down, either change the color of the grid lines, change the opacity of the grid lines, and hit save settings. And now you can see the red is the Roll20 grid lines, and now the blue here is the artwork grid lines. And it's really obvious that they're different sizes. So it would be pretty tedious to kind of go through and resize this exactly and make sure like they're all the same. So instead of doing that, Roll20 has a tool called Align Grid. With your selection tool selected, or S on your keyboard, you're going to right click on the map and say Advanced Transform Align to Grid. Now you're going to choose a 3x3 square and highlight it. And you want to be kind of as exact as possible because it's actually measuring the pixels here. So we choose that 3x3 square, and it should be the same pixel height and width. If it's not, you messed up. So try it again and try to be more exact. All right, so 66 by 65. We're going to say it's 65 by 65. We can manually change that instead of keep trying again, and hit Align to Grid. All right, so now the map squares are, the artwork squares are the same size as the Roll20 squares, but they're not quite lined up. So let's move this in and line it up as best we can in the top left corner. Always start at the top left corner. If I just let go of my mouse right now, it's going to snap it to the grid. So to avoid that, we're going to hold down the Alt key and then let go of the mouse, and now it won't move. So you can see over here, it's lined up pretty good, but over here it starts to drift a little. So we weren't exactly accurate. So we're going to just hold down the Alt button and move this to line that up. And then maybe do the same thing on the bottom. And now that looks good throughout the whole map. The grid lines on Roll20 match the grid lines on the artwork. Maybe a little off there. And you can get as persnickety as you want, but that's good enough. Alternatively, if after you had these lined up, if the artwork has grid lines on it and you don't want to use the Roll20 grid lines, remember, come over to the settings, scroll down, and you can actually just turn off the grid and hit Save Settings. So now those grid lines won't be visible, but they are there, right? So as the tokens move around, they'll still be locked in, but the grid lines on Roll20 won't be interfering with the grid lines on the artwork. It's up to you. Sometimes you want those to be super noticeable. Sometimes you want them to be a little bit more subtle. So there you go. Now we have to resize the canvas to make sure it matches the artwork. So easiest way to do that is to use the ruler or measure tool, or hit Q on your keyboard. And then we can measure how many squares this is. Actually, I apologize. I was wrong. We need to have the grid on. You just turn the opacity to 0%. There we go. Now it's measuring it. So you can see here, this says it's 2 squares, but it's really 3 because it doesn't count the first one. So then we just measure the artwork. So this is, it says 19, but it's really 20 by 14. So now we come back over into here, go into settings and say this is 20 by 14. And then hit Save Settings and then close. And now we have the canvas size matching the size of the artwork. Now there is a little border extra on both sides, but we're okay with that. That's adding your first battle map. Doing another example, because this one was a little bit persnickety. I'll show you some that are a little bit better. We can go to this one. We'll call this Wizard Tower Basement. And then we'll call this one Bloated Pig. Okay. Now, before I do this, disclaimer, if you're a player playing a Most Potent Brew, if your DM is having you play that one, you're going to see the whole battle map here, so maybe stop watching. These videos are really kind of geared towards DMs anyway, but just to put that disclaimer out there. So now we're going to go to our artwork, and not that folder. That folder. We're going to find the battle map for Wizard Tower, bring it over, and we are in the map layer. So the good thing about this is it will say, hey, what do you want to, there are different sizes here, your canvas and your artwork. Do you want to adjust the canvas or do you want to adjust the artwork? Usually I adjust the canvas, not the artwork. And now we can see at least everything's the same size. However, they're not lined up still. So again, we're going to kind of zoom in. We're going to focus in on the artwork squares and look for that 3x3. Right click on it, say Advanced Transform, Align to Grid. And do that 3x3 as precisely as we can. 66 by 66, hit Align to Grid. Incidentally, little trick, mouse wheel up and down will move the map up and down. Alt mouse wheel will zoom in and out. Shift mouse wheel move left and right. So simple way to kind of zoom around the map. Line it up and it looks pretty good, but it starts to drift again. So we're going to Alt and line it up. And then this one looks pretty good, but we could probably get a little bit more exact. And there we go. Now, if we wanted to resize again to match the actual artwork and canvas size, it's only one off. So it's not that big of a deal, but let's go ahead and change it. So we'll just increase this to 21 and this to 21. And I think it's still going to be off. Yep. Okay. So it was 22 and 22. So we'll do this to 22 and that to 22 and hit Save Settings. And pretty good. Actually, I don't like that white. So we're going to put it back. It's fine. So whatever's on the outside edge of this, the black line here won't be visible to the players. And actually, I don't like that either. So this is, I'm getting persnickety height. We're going to make it 23. Save settings. That's fine. Whatever. Okay. Now, the only other thing I like to do personally is add in a landing page for my players to go to, like, especially during the week when we're not actually physically sitting down and playing. They want to log in, look at their character sheet, kind of review their skills or traits or whatever. We don't want them to be able to explore the battle map that we ended our last session on. So what I do is I create a landing page and move them over to that. So let's show you how to do that. Now, it's as simple as creating a new page. Call it landing page. And then grab some artwork, do whatever you want for it doesn't have to be fancy. It can just be this, right? No big deal. And then let me get my artwork. I'm using this, which I just, Google image search, found this and added some text and flavor to it. Adjust page size. And it's a pretty big file. I might shrink that down. Now you have this landing page that the players can do. I don't want grid lines on there, so I'm going to turn the grid off and save settings. And then I'm going to move this over to the left. And then this little thing here, the little banner, where you have that is where your players are. So if you move this over here, now the players, when they log in, will be moved over to the landing page. And even if they're, while they're logged in, if you want to go from one battle map to the other, this is how you move the players from one battle map to the other. All right. So during the week, I'll throw them on the landing page. When we start our session, if we're at the Bloated Pig, I'll move them over there. If we're at the Wizard Tower, we'll move them over there, so on and so forth. Another thing you can do with managing your maps is add a folder. Right here. Create a folder. And maybe this is like the town of, Oberon. I don't know. I just made one up. And these maps are for the town of Oberon. I can move these maps into this folder. So if you have multiple towns or multiple like a dungeon, multiple maps for a dungeon, you can put them in folders to help organize you. And then when you come here, then you're good to go. And then go back to all pages, and then you can move this over here. Wait, how do you? Oh, move party ribbon here. There you go. So to move the party ribbon from in a folder to out of a folder, or out of a folder to in a folder, use the little 3 dots here and move party ribbon. And then you can go back to all pages and again, move party ribbon here. Okay, so that's another way to do it instead of clicking and dragging it. I think that's everything that I wanted to cover in this video. Thank you very much for watching. And I will see you guys in the next video when we talk about that dynamic lighting layer. We're going to get pretty immersive here. We're going to add some lighting and restrict some movement, add some doors that players can interact with, windows, so on and so forth. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.